over locating materials for your concept study in GNRS GSPH 506. So first we'll start with the Health Sciences Virtual Library. You can get here by scanning this QR code or going to the link listed in the address bar. You'll scroll down and you will click on Graduate Nursing Course LibGuides. From here, you'll go ahead and select GNRS 506 Spiritual Concept Analysis. I have a link back to the recommended databases for the health sciences if you want to go back there. I also have a link to the STAMPS Virtual Theological Library. Also, to get started, I have an introduction to the library video. On this, I talk about how to use the Health Sciences Virtual Library as well as the library website, searching in the library catalog, locating books, and then also doing a brief search in the databases like CINAHL. Scrolling down, you'll go all the way down to the bottom. I wanted to point out the course text. Now, all of these are, depending on the professor, would be either required or recommended. You'll just have to check with your professor. Note, I do have ebook listed if we have it in ebook format. um, Next, locating biblical and theological literature on a concept. This section goes through steps to take for a concept study. More details of this is just a brief steps that I have created based on the information provided on this guide. And all of these steps are in more detail with more information that you might want to take a look at. Okay, so the first step would be um, thinking about meaning and concepts and using the Oxford English Dictionary. Okay, so we'll go ahead and go through the steps here using the English Dictionary to look for a definition of your concept. I'll go ahead and click on this. And if you're not signed in already, you'll be asked to sign in. And then I'll just put in my concept. So compassion. So there are two definitions here. You can look at the full entry by looking at view entry. Okay. There is if you want to cite this, you can click on cite and it gives you recommended citation formats for each Chicago, MLA, and EPA. Okay. The next step is looking for your scripture on your concept. So we would recommend BibleGateway.com to start here. This is a free source, and you can choose your version, whichever version you want, and then you just put in your concept and then enter or search. So as you can see here, there are 66 verses that are on these concepts. So if you wanted to select a verse, for instance, 1 Kings has one verse, 1 Kings 3:26. There's also in 2 Kings 13:23. Okay. Now, depending on the version that you choose, each version uses a concept differently. So just be aware of that. So if I choose a different version, there might be like this one has 83 times versus the 66 times in the other version. But if you do choose a version, I would recommend using that throughout your paper, and you'll make a note of that. So there were two for First Kings. The first one here, or second one here, is First Kings 8:50. Okay, and maybe I want to find a New Testament one, so I'll go ahead and select um, Luke. And so I'll go ahead and select Luke 15:20 here. And then it gives you, you can go ahead and look at the verse and read the full chapter, um, and it just tells you a little bit more about it. Okay. So then the next step would be to locate Greek and Hebrew words. So you can go to um, any chapter or verse here. So I'll go to that First Kings 8, and then if I go scroll down, then I think we can select turn that on, and then we can go down to 50. And then it will bring up the verse that talks about has compassion in it. So in this case, when you put your cursor over it, you'll see at the top of the screen there the word in Hebrew. And then if you click on it, you'll be able to see the meaning that it's used in this context. Okay. If you go, there's another compassion in this verse. So I can click on that, and I can see for this one, this is what compassion means. Okay. And if I click on it, I can see on the side, okay, this is the Hebrew word, and then the meaning of compassion. I can do the same thing for the Luke passage. So I'll click on Luke. Um, it looks like I have to turn this on so I can do a verse selection every time. So I'll go back to Luke 15 and then 20. So then it goes to Luke 15:20. I see compassion is listed. I can put my cursor over it or click on it. And here I'll see the Greek word for um, compassion in this case, and then the meaning of it in this case too. And it looks like this word in particular appears 26 times in the Bible. Okay. So that is how to get your find a definition, and then also using this resource called the Step Bible to get the Greek and Hebrew words of that the definitions in Greek and Hebrew. The next step is using ATLA to do a topic search, or you can also use Christian Periodical Index on your topic. And then ATLA also has a scripture search feature. So I'm going to go ahead and do the scripture search first in ATLA. So I'll click on ATLA. And then to do the scripture search, we'll click on subjects. change this to ATLA Scripture Search. We'll scroll down to 1 Kings. So if you know the scripture, this is a good way to locate materials on it. So I can go to 1 Kings, and it was 8, and then I can go down to verse 50. I'll check the box to the left, scroll back up and click on Add to Search, and then click on Search. So then it will bring up all of the verses that have that are referenced in 1 Kings 8:50. So there are 129 here. Okay. You could click on Advanced Search here and then add compassion, and note the truncation feature. Okay. And then I'm also just going to search in the subject field for this. Now you probably want to start with well, I'll leave it open for now, so it'll look all over for now. But if you get a lot of results, you could also narrow that to just the subject field. Looks like we have 13, so this is a pretty good number. So then you would go ahead and click on Access Options, and then if it's available in PDF, you can open up the PDF. You might see, as I mentioned in the other videos, on how to get full text. Um, link full text or online full text, or you can request it through interlibrary loan. Okay. Oops, I didn't mean to close that. Going back here. So I would want to do that for both the Old and New Testament verses that I select. Okay. So if I want to look for that Luke passage, and again, I'll click on this little plus sign, and it was 15. I can't remember now. I think it was 20. And then add to search. And then I can add compassion here. And so then there would be 61 in this that mention compassion. If I wanted to narrow this, like I mentioned, you can use the field tag subject, and it will narrow it then to any of them that include subject of compassion in the field tags. And so then that would put it down to 3. Okay. Next thing we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and start over here. So I want to clear this search. Let's see, I think there's a way to clear the search. I guess not. So I'm just going to clear this, and then I'm going to go to Advanced Search and clear all of this. The next way that you can look up verse or articles on a topic is to just type in compassion or your concept and then click on search. So as you can see here, there's 75,000, over 75,000 articles. I'm just going to apply a couple filters here. So I'll click on all filters, and I'm going to exclude book reviews because we don't really want those. And then I will go to language and select English. So now we're down to 56,000. The next thing that you could do is click on Advanced Search here. And I'll use that field tag, subject field tag again, just so that it will narrow this a little bit for my topic. So I'll go ahead and do that. So there's now 1,777. Next, I can go ahead and go to all filters. And if I want to see what other scriptures are mentioned here, I see that any of all of these scriptures mention compassion in the article, and it has a scripture attached to it. So if I wanted to do this Luke 10:25 to 27, I can update selection and apply, and it will only bring up the articles that use that Luke 10:25 to 37 in it. Okay, and again, to get the full text, you just click on the drop down, PDF, or if PDF is not available, you would use Full Text Finder, see if we have it in another database, or request it from Interlibrary Loan. This one looks pretty interesting. It uses those passages, but then it says a journey towards a theology of health and economics. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove the scripture search a minute and apply. One way that we can narrow these results is to add, like, because we want some where it says concept or something like that. So I'll go ahead and add concept to this, and then we'll see what we get. So it's looking for concept throughout the text of the document. But if we wanted to say look for the concept in the title or the subject, we can just add TI or SU or the abstract. And this will just help us narrow our results here. So that puts us down to 26. And then you could also then filter it if you wanted to see what, looks like there's no, the option for the scripture search is not available at this point. Okay, so that's how you would search in ATLA. You could do the same thing in Christian Periodical Index. Now, you can't do a scripture search here, but you can do, a search for your concept. So I don't think you can do a scripture search. Let me see. No, it's not available. So I'll go ahead and put in compassion and then search. And then I'll go to advanced search, and I want to look for this in the subject field. And then I'll go to filters here. Again, we want to exclude book reviews, and language is English, and apply. So now it's 583. Okay. You can also do a scripture search here. It looks like it's not as like narrowed, but it is possible. So I'm just going to do this one right here. And that's how you would look for scripture on, um, specific scriptures on it. Okay. So let's go back to the Health Sciences Virtual Library now. And in the GNRS506 class, the next step is to look for primary sources written by theologians. One of the good source to do this is Past Masters. So note, Past Masters also includes philosophers, which you won't need for this assignment. So make sure you do know which ones are philosophers and which ones are theologians. I'll go ahead and put in compassion here. And then you'll go ahead and select the sources that you want. And to open something up, I'll just go back up to the top here, and I can click on the verse or the word compassion, and it will open it up and how they this was compassion in how they use compassion here. Okay. You can also use lobe, and then you just put in your word. And it looks like there's 196 items. You can narrow it by, the language choice, the author, form, period, and genre. So maybe you wanted to narrow it to medicine, for instance. You can see that this one here mentions compassion. And then it has the Greek version and then the English version. Okay, to cite this source, if we go back, sometimes on these, they have recommendations for citing sources. Going back to our guide here on step 7, um, the theology librarian has created some recommendations on how to do that. Okay. And then the next step is secondary source, or step 6 is secondary sources like dictionaries and commentaries. So if you want to see dictionaries, Bible dictionaries and commentaries. So for, say, the New Testament, you would use something like this. And you can do a search in here for your word. And it will bring up all the, uses of compassion. You can also look in the scripture index to see if there's a verse that you maybe you wanted to see if there's something about that First Kings verse. You can go down to it and find it. Now, this is not a real easy way to look at it, but you'd have to scroll through it and find it and then click on it. So like this one right here. Okay, and this actually goes back to Bible Gateway there, which is kind of cool. Um, for Old Testament, you could use something like this. And type in compassion. And then all of the resources that do talk about compassion are listed here. So that 1 Kings 8:50 verse is listed right here. And you can see how it talks about it and within this context. Okay. And then the last I mentioned is the APA citation. So, oops, I think so first citing the Bible. Here's some resources on doing that. Primary text. So like Pastmasters, Loeb, All of those, there's ways in which to cite it, okay? And other dictionaries and entries, okay? Commentaries. Okay. And then the commentaries are listed here, and it's listed by book of the Bible. So you could say go to First and Second Kings here, and you can see all of the commentaries for First and Second Kings. These books looks like they're both in print and electronic. So just note that these ones are just ebooks. Some of them are just in print. And like this one here is just ebooks as well. Okay. So that is it for the biblical theological steps of the concept study. The next video I will go over looking for your concept in nursing literature.